Welcome! This is the first video on this channel and is the first video explaining KOIOS I, the first vehicle in the KOIOS lineup. The KOIOS lineup I will explain further in this video, and this is the first long-form video explaining the development process of these new vehicles. I'm gonna create a couple videos like this, long-form videos, devlogs, every week or 2 weeks, explaining what I've been doing for the past couple weeks, as well as a couple videos explaining what I've been working on for the past couple months. I've been working on KOIOS, the KOIOS lineup, for a couple months now, and I've mostly been working on CAD design, simulation, and software, as well as electronic design and circuits. At this point, I've had a pretty good understanding about the actual vehicle control. I've worked with state space design, linear quadratic regulators, and Kalman filters, and I'm currently working on a quaternion extended Kalman filter for the vehicle. I'm going to go over the development process here and turning all this code and simulation into an actual vehicle that I could use to test all this theory, all this code, and everything out. And my plan is to develop new electronic devices, circuits, chips, everything, and code my own algorithms and test it on this vehicle. KOIOS I was not the only vehicle in this lineup and will be followed up by other vehicles, such as KOIOS II. Let's begin. KOIOS is the Greek god for innovation or fire. I chose this name to be very fitting, as this vehicle has a lot of code I have developed, as well as code online and through a lot of research that I've done and development. For example, I read several pages of devlogs and lots of documentation on algorithms and turned it into code and tested it on simulations. So I just thought this would be a very fitting name for a vehicle that frankly is a perfect representation of some of the best algorithms and systems I could find. And this is a great learning process. So KOIOS I, what is it? Well, KOIOS I is the first vehicle of the KOIOS lineup. KOIOS I is a vehicle that will in the beginning and at first be used for TVC testing and electronic communication between the ground station and the vehicle. Eventually, I want to create a single motor or double motor ascent flight with a parachute descent. The last stage of KOIOS I is hopefully either a dual or tri-motor ascent and descent landing with landing legs. I'm still working on this section of the flight. I'm currently in the first stage, and I am currently working on test 0.1, which would be a simple TVC test and maybe igniting a motor. After that, I will be incorporating a parachute system and a landing leg system and working on the first powered flight with 1 or 2 motors. I want to go over this entire process in the next couple of videos and next few months over how I actually build this system. And I'm going to go over some of my code, hopefully, as well, and what I've been working on for the past couple months of this project. KOIOS I is just a simple step forward in the KOIOS lineup and a way of showing that this is possible and I can incorporate lots of technology that I've learned and lots of software and manufacturing. As you can see back here is my 3D printer. I hope to create several systems with KOIOS I. I hope to work on the same vehicle over and over again and be able to develop it into lots of stages of KOIOS I. Apologies for the cut, I just thought someone was at my door, just had to double check. Anyways, as I was saying, KOIOS I is just the first initial vehicle that I would just use to prove lots of code and technology that I've learned and implement all this into one vehicle. This won't have that much room for innovation, that much, and different boards and code and everything. This is where KOIOS II comes in, the next lineup. I expect to have this built in the next couple months, or be finished with KOIOS I in the next couple months, maybe a year, so I can begin with KOIOS II. But anyways, I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming video. For now, I just want to talk about KOIOS I and the design, and why and how. Well, KOIOS I, as I said, is just a system as a first stepping stone into aerospace design, and particularly computer engineering and software and electronic engineering. My point of this project is to really not only learn a lot of electronic engineering, computer engineering, and software engineering concepts, but actually put it into practice in an actual vehicle that I can use. My biggest passions for the past several years since I was a kid were building things and creating an aerospace. So this is a great way of combining a lot of my passions, which is mostly electronic design, software design, computer design, as well as aerospace, and really kind of get a good understanding of all that and create a real vehicle. My goal with KOIOS II, I'll talk about it later, is to add more variety and flexibility with what is controlling and actually flying the vehicle. So with KOIOS II, it will not only be use rocket propulsion, but hopefully drone propulsion or turbine propulsion. And it will also allow me to create my own chips, not only circuit boards, but chips, hopefully, and my own artificial intelligence programs and everything to fly the vehicle. It'll be more of an autonomous system, much larger, and I guess a more advanced system. So this is my first year of high school. I hope to continue working on this project, and I will be explaining more of this in this video. Okay, so this section of the video is a little bit more centered on the actual design here. So KOIOS I is a vehicle that will have a double TVC mount, or thrust vector control system, that will be gimbaled into a direction of plus or minus 5 degrees. Now this should give me a good understanding, or a good control of the vehicle's orientation, and keep it upright or move it to a position I need to, especially during landing, but also during liftoff. I want to keep it as vertical as possible and maybe move it around. So for this design here, I am using a state space control system with a Gaussian LQR to determine the correct values for the state space control. So I have developed this and put it into code, and I have simulated this in MATLAB, and I've gotten some pretty decent results. And I've also gone ahead and simulated with the KOIOS I further designs, where it has the double motor landing and fins as well, which will come in later variants of KOIOS. But for the first system, it is quite simple. For the first descent system, it is a parachute system, which uses a black powder piston system to push out a parachute that ultimately deploys and controls the vehicle down. I have a custom printed circuit board controlled by a Teensy 4.1. This is the brain of the entire operation. I have a radio on board that communicates to a ground station. And ultimately, I have the double TVC mount, which is at first going to be one motor, but it can be attached for 2 motors, and I could use that as a passive system, so that once the thrust of the first motor burns out, it should fly or fall away from the vehicle. Great, and then I would have a nose cone at the top, of course, for aerodynamics. Not really important, but still. This vehicle is not so much for aerospace purposes. In fact, it is more an application of electronics, software design, and computer design. Of course, I have the actual rocket design with the hardware, but it's not really focused so much on that, and that will come later with the latter stages of KOIOS I and the beginning of KOIOS II, where I will have to go through more CFD simulations to ensure that the fins are correct, and I can use those in several scenarios. Anyways, my bad. Apologies. Anyways, currently I have a lot of the code set out. I've done simulations, and I have most of the equations and everything I need to actually fly the vehicle. I want to go over more things later, but at this point of the system, of the process of developing KOIOS I have a 3D printer which I'm using to print out one of the rings, and I hope to have the first test vehicle done in a couple weeks. and I can develop that further later. So I'm going to just show the current vehicle design here. So this is the first vehicle design. Apologies for the different models around, but this system here is for, it's more or less it's the first ascent vehicle. We have the double TVC down here. This system can be removed. This bottom tube can be removed. This is the old double TVC system that I developed, which has the thrust variation system here to create different amounts of thrust for a better landing. But I have moved away from that now due to the cost of the material to block out the thrust. I'm working on an algorithm that should work just as well as the thrust blocking system. As we go up the vehicle here, we have, this is going to come later in the vehicle, but we have a roll wheel, a momentum wheel, steel wheel, which we will use to keep the vehicle steady. I might not implement this in the first ascent vehicle, as it is quite expensive to manufacture and heavy. And to be fair, I'm not so important. It doesn't matter so much what the angular momentum is of the vehicle, but I hope to maybe in the next vehicles develop that system. Then we have, as we go on to this system here, this is the slightly more developed system for KOIOS I. We have the parachute bay, which has a piston here that comes out and pushes a parachute that would be in this compartment here and pushing out this cover here. As that cover flies off, we have a parachute that can deploy, maybe a drogue chute that pulls that parachute off for safekeeping, for safety, and we can deploy and make sure and ensure this vehicle returns safely to the ground for extraction of data. This middle section here, just above the TVC, is the brain of the computer. It has the PCB I have developed, and I will go more into later. This is just a simple TVC, through-hole components. It's not really solder components yet. I'm not soldering every component on as onto the board. I forgot what it's called. It's not THD, through-hole component. So at the back here, we have the battery, and this PCB has an IMU, magnetometer, several pyro channels, BMP, the TNC, and several other systems to ensure that we can control this vehicle. Now, most of this is quite simple, the actual vehicle itself. A lot of the complexity comes in the code and the design of the vehicle control system. Now, this is quite a bit of code and design that I will go over in the next couple videos. But I just wanted to get in this video that give you a rundown on the design of the vehicle and basically the main concept that I want to test out with the first KOIOS vehicle. Anyways, my next video should be around maybe a week from now or so, or 2 weeks from now, and I will be going over any developments that I've had by then. I hope to have the first vehicle test system ready, and finish up my code and doing a couple tests, and maybe a couple days after, I hope to do a real test where I will record all these tests and upload them to this channel. I'll give more devlogs in the future. I will go a bit into the code and a bit into the PCB design. This should be a very fun project, and I am excited to be documenting here.